Welcome to GrassRoot, Ohio, conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Tracey and Sean Barnes, flower farmers facing not one, but two imminent asphalt plants on either side of their rural town or village, Alexandria, and next to their farm in St Albans Township. Tracey Barnes is a mother and a flower farmer with a deep love for the natural world. Along with her husband and 3 children, she lives and works full-time on their flower farm in Alexandria, Ohio. Before she began farming in 2016, Tracey worked connecting people with plants as a volunteer coordinator and horticulturalist in public gardens. She received her Bachelor of Science Degree in Agriculture from the Ohio State University, and Tracey's love of travel has taken her around the country and abroad. But the place she loves the best is her home in Alexandria. Sean Barnes has always loved being in nature. His interest in plants drew him to horticulture, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture from the Ohio State University. He has worked mainly in public gardens, but got his start working in greenhouses and nursery production. In addition to flower farming with his wife since 2016, he is also a certified arborist with an endless passion for trees and forestry. When Sean is not farming, he is usually spending time with his kids or finding time to travel to the places where he is most at peace, in the woods. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Let's talk about your flower farm in St Albans Township next to, or your relationship to actually Alexandria and St Albans Township. Let's start with you, Tracey.
Hi, well, our farm we're just under 8 acres. We're located in the village of Alexandria, but also part of our farm is in St Albans Township. We're it's like a little valley. We get lots of fog, and we have the Raccoon Creek runs by our one side of our farm. We grow annual flowers, and we sell at farmers markets and wholesale and to florists. And we've been growing since 2016. We started, and we don't use any pesticides or herbicides. We're organic.
Awesome. How about you, Sean? Talk a little bit about your farm.
So when we first came here, it was just a big wide open space with lots of promise. It was pretty much 2015 that we planted the first set of crops to grow. And since then, we've grown a little bit each year. We've developed a process because we're raising our kids at the same time. So it's been a slow growth, but I think in the last couple of years, we've really been able to expand and kind of get to where we've been able to do this full time for ourselves, which was a big deal. I think we both knew when we first moved out here from Columbus that we wanted to do something in a production sense with the green industry, whether it was growing trees and shrubs or flowers as it ended up. And yeah, it's been a really fun sort of a process. There's been a lot of learning along the way, and it's a sort of grown us as individuals and our horticultural side. So it's been a really good thing for us.
It's a small world because I was introduced to your flowers last summer at the Bexley Farmers Market, and your flowers are incredibly exquisite and beautiful and diverse. And so that's just a little plug, but I love your flowers. So people that want to see them can come to the Bexley Farmers Market. And are there any other markets you go to?
We're at the Granville Farmers Market on Saturdays at Raccoon Valley Park.
All right. Well, let's give folks an idea of what's going on right now in your community about these asphalt plants that are looming in this small little village of around 600 people. Let's start with you, Sean.
So this was kind of an interesting situation. It wouldn't have been known to us had it not been through community member sort of discovering about one of the asphalt plants through a contact with the EPA. He was actually reaching out to discuss some other issues with the same property due to dust and noise, and got word back that, well, you know, there's going to be an asphalt plant there soon. And so that community member decided to put a little flyer out and distribute it in a few places. And we just happened to stumble upon it. And it was kind of surprising because in this community, you tend to know things as they're happening, maybe a little bit before, because it's a small community, word gets around quickly. But this was really strange because it had been planned or was in the process of happening for a while. And so we kind of found out on the back end of it. And, you know, as a community, we started reaching out to other people and finding out more people knew about this and were worried and sort of intimidated by this idea. So we kind of formed a little group, people that wanted to know more, but at the same time wanted to see if there was a way to oppose this situation. Because when you think about having two asphalt plants pretty much within a mile of each other, and they're on either end of the village, it starts to kind of scare you, the prospect of something like that. And since we didn't know much about it at the time, we really dove into the details of what that was going to mean for our community, from the sense of the air pollution, potential for groundwater contamination, as well as just the overall impact to the well-being of the community. So we kind of came in late in the process, but we feel like we've really come to know a lot more about it. And we are just working to make sure that at this stage in the game, we can either have a community that can do something about this to make sure that asphalt plants aren't part of the future for Alexandria, or that if it's going to be done, it's done the right way, with the idea that protects everybody.
Tracey, what is most alarming about these asphalt plants for you?
What's most alarming is their proximity to our water supply, to the water. These are sited in absolute worst place, defies all common sense. One property, the proposed site is actually, the proposed site of the property is within a flood plain, a flood zone, a 100-year flood zone. It's also on top of a very large underground aquifer. This area floods like crazy. Anyone who lives here knows that when we get rain, even a few inches of rain, it is flooded. Every year, the farm fields are flooding more and more. It's encroaching upon residents, houses, roads. Just down on 37, the road blew out. They had to put in a new culvert. This area is notorious for flooding. We are very concerned about stormwater runoff running into the creek. The other site of the proposed asphalt plant is also within 200 feet, 250 feet of the Raccoon Valley Creek, Raccoon Creek. The threat to water here is the most alarming thing. Beyond just humans drinking this water will feed, or this water goes to residents of Alexandria, St Albans Township, even Granville. You know, there's also wildlife here. There's bald eagles. We have 2 pairs of nesting bald eagles that are here. And a lot of wildlife. The water is the most alarming thing for me. Second is the air pollution as well. We sit in a little bit of a valley, and I don't know all the ins and outs of the weather, but whenever people are burning burn piles and wood stoves, the smoke gets trapped. The air pushes it down. It's very, very foggy here, and it gets trapped this air pollution will get trapped in our valley. As I said earlier, our farm is in a valley, the town's a little bit in a valley. So we're very concerned about the air pollution and the water pollution mostly.
Okay, so who is funding these plants? And does it have any connection with Intel's growth? Start with Sean.
So the two different plants are funded by two different companies, as we understand it. And it should be included in this that the sites for both asphalt plants will also have a proposed concrete plant operating on each site as well. I don't know the exact companies that are going to be doing the concrete work, but I know Scioto Materials is one. The asphalt plants would be Marzane, which, as I understand, is a subsidiary or arm of the Shelley and Sands Company. And then the other one is Shelley Materials. And so, yeah, the two plants, as we understand it, they want to be here because of proximity to Intel. Intel is probably the site, I think, as a crow flies, maybe 4 or 5 miles. With the roads here, it would be probably a 5 or 6 mile trip from the sites to the Intel site. And it should also be included that with the asphalt projects, you're probably looking at the expansion of 161. So they're widening 161 from the 270, or I want to say Hamilton Road bridge area, all the way out to 62 was the first proposed part. We've been told that it's actually going to come all the way to either 37 or potentially 16, which is Granville. So you've got a lot of, I mean, it's probably 10 miles or more of roads that would need asphalt as well. So it looks like what they're trying to do is get in right as this stuff is happening. And so they're kind of trying to get in as fast as possible so they can take part in the process for growing Intel and putting it all together. That's where we kind of came in, because we found out how quickly this was ramping up. And as we were discovering the details of it, we started noticing there were some missteps kind of along the way where people were rushing through things without proper permits. And then thankfully, our sort of grassroots group created enough noise around it that we finally started seeing some action at the county level, and some other groups that have sort of slowed down the process. So right now where we stand is still kind of, we're waiting, but they did seem to be really in a rush to get going so that they could get over to help the Intel site development.
This is Carolyn Harding with GrassRoot, Ohio. And today I'm talking with Tracey and Sean Barnes. They are flower farmers in Alexandria, Ohio, which is a small village next to Granville, where Denison University is. And there are 2 imminent asphalt plants that are proposed to be built on either side of this small town. And they are concerned. And I've got a question. Are there other community members that you've gotten to know that are organizing? Let's talk with you, Tracey.
Well, I know we have a group here of people here in Alexandria and St Albans Township, but I also know that there are other people in Granville working. It seems like there's some satellite groups around working on this as well as on this opposing the asphalt plants. We have some contact with them, but I imagine there's people still that are working but aren't connected to us yet. We have a page on Facebook, the Clean Air and Water for Alexandria and St. Albans Facebook, and that's where our group has been sharing all factual. Everything is that we're posting is factual information for community members to know, to become aware and to learn things. And then through that page, we are getting more people interested from just beyond, for example, from Granville, people are becoming interested. And stepping up more to be active participants in this.
If this asphalt plant is permitted and built, could it perhaps impact Granville's water supply?
Sean,
Yeah, absolutely. The way this water situation has sort of worked out, Granville pulls their water from wells that are in the aquifer underneath Raccoon Creek. And it's a pretty large aquifer. And because of the geology of this area, during the last ice age, the edge of the glacier sat over this area. So we actually sit over a large gravel deposit area. And the water underneath there is moving from sort of the east to the west, and it's a gigantic aquifer. They get their water in Granville from there, and it brings it, I think they have a municipal contract with Alexandria, so that Alexandria gets their drinking water from the Granville pumping station. So the potential for contamination seems pretty great. And if you add up a lot of the projects that are coming along with the Intel development, there's a potential water treatment facility that would be on the west end of the village by about a couple miles away. That would be discharging into a run that leads into Raccoon Creek. You would have the 2 asphalt plants with the potential for runoff. And like Tracey said, the fact that one of the asphalt plants is in the floodway, the other one is just adjacent to the floodway and sits on a slope that aims down towards Raccoon Creek. So the stormwater could potentially contaminate Raccoon Creek. And as I point out, the gravel base, it's a very porous soil. It rains and we get lots of floods here, like Tracey was saying, but that water can also rise up from the bottom. We have a well, and normally the switch that starts the process of turning the pump on is buried below grade. So if it freezes, outside, you can still run that well because it's down in there insulated. We have had 3 switches blown because the water table will creep up so high that now we have to keep our switch 1.5 foot above grade in order to avoid it being submerged. So the water table is constantly sort of shifting and moving. So there's a lot of permeability, a lot of potential water contamination issues from all 3 of those facilities.
So I heard that the recent Board of Zoning Appeals meeting was heated, that citizens were upset. And what power does this board have regarding the plants?
Who wants to talk?
Oh.
Well,
I'll go ahead. Just because the zoning has been a really interesting thing for us. We've learned a whole lot in the last month about how zoning works in Ohio and how it sort of works for townships. But the Board of Zoning Appeals is essentially going to be in the process of approving the applications that would come in for conditional use required for these asphalt plants, because the zoning that they have is right now permitted of mining, and that's related to a lot of the asphalt and concrete stuff that they do. But they need a conditional use permit for something like asphalt, and that goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The BZA can vote on it, yes or no. And there's a lot of stuff within the Ohio Revised Code that they consider in that process. And from there, it's just a matter of what decision is made. If it's approved, there can be an appeal. And an appeal would then go to, I believe it's the Common Pleas Court here locally for the county. And then vice versa. If it was denied, then it could be appealed by the company that wants to appeal it, I think obviously to the same place, the Common Pleas Court. So the BZA sort of is the one who can start the process of approving and denying it, and it goes from there whether or not it's appealed. And we're hopeful that the BZA can see some of the stuff that allows it to what would allow for a denial in this sort of process with things like how it's going to impact the community at large and the potential for hazard or nuisance that could be caused. So we're just waiting on when that application would be filed.
Okay, Tracey, there was some conflict of interest, right, in some of the members of the BZA, weren't there?
Not the BZA. Well, both. There was we believe there's a conflict of interest between one of the members on the zoning commission, who was the owner of the property that the proposed asphalt site was on. And then the second person is a member of the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals, who was the property owner of the second proposed site of the asphalt plant. Yes, a major conflict of interest, considering nobody heard anything about these plants going in. And then suddenly we hear about them going in the two properties that these two people hold, who are members of the St Albans Township. It goes further into it that one board member or one person on the zoning commission was actually, public record is actually in violation of the zoning resolutions that this person is sworn to uphold. So that was a major concern.
Got it.
Sean, did I say everything, or is there anything else?
Yeah, that's pretty much sums it up.
Well, I have a personal investment in that area because I have a family member who works at several barns out there. I also own a horse on North Ridge Road, and then have another interest in a barn across 161. So this impacts my family and the water and also the air. So last night I went to the township trustee meeting and it was packed.
Yeah. Really
but
was.
the trustees didn't want any conflict. So they told folks that they had to put their questions online. So they didn't really take many questions. A few people got a few questions answered. So, but there were several people that had some literature and they passed it around, and these seemed like people that were definitely concerned. And I found it very interesting. Some of the information about these asphalt plants, like the paving company has a history of violating EPA permits with water and air.
Oh yeah, they have. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No.
I've got a list. It's going to be a large scale manufacturing operation, not a small.
Yeah.
And the production of 3 million tons per year with surface area of 15 acres. And it'll run for 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week for 300 days a year, and require 385 trucks per day to haul out asphalt continuously. And they'll need water for dust suppressant. And where does that come from? It's a noisy, bright, smoky, heavy industrial operation. And they say a bag house, which I don't know what that means, will collect particulate matters from the mixer, but no other air pollute. It won't take out the sulfur dioxide, the nitrogen oxide, the volatile organic compounds, or carbon monoxide. And there's just a few more. No capture of blue smoke from the silos of hot asphalt. And the quarry pond used for the industry they'll take water and the runoff, they'll return, which is en route to this aquifer and private water wells. So that's, if that list is verified information, which I think it is, that's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we were lucky to find out, we attended a planning commission technical review committee meeting about this one plant that was going to be 15 acres, because I believe the information that you're reading off specifically pertains to the large plant, which was one of the properties. And that one is in the floodplain. It's a gravel pit that they believe is 30 or 40 feet deep. So the potential there for contamination is great, because you're talking about all the ash, all the residue sediment was going to be pumped into this former quarry. And it's in direct contact essentially with the aquifer at that stage. We were glad to hear that the technical review committee brought up that that was probably going to be unacceptable in their planning because of that specific issue, as well as some modifications were made to the floodplain on that property. And that's where this property stands. It's sort of in limbo right now. Well, I wouldn't say limbo, it's on pause due to the fact that the site itself was altered before the application, and it's not in compliance with the floodplain. So they did not seek a FEMA permit. So speaking to the violations that have happened with some of these companies, before this company took this site was in violation for modifying the floodplain and didn't submit the proper request to do so to FEMA. And there's a whole process with the developments in these floodplains. But the technical review committee did point out that that would not be acceptable to put a sediment catch in that quarry, that they'd have to actually build specifically dedicated sediment catch ponds, I guess.
Well, if these plants are permitted, how will it impact your family farm, your schools, your village? Let's talk about that. Tracey.
It's gonna turn our lives upside down for sure. I don't know. I don't know what we would do if we would try to just sell and leave. I mean, we came to Alexandria because we wanted to live here. We've lived here for 8 years. I don't have to live in a place my entire life to know that I love it and I want to fight for it like we are now. We've put everything into this farm, every penny, every blood, sweat, and tears into this farm to build it. The thought of leaving this and starting over, it would really impact us, and we would have to make some major decisions as a family, as a community. You know, we're a small village, around 600 people. We're a rural community. Around here, you know, we like living here. We like the rural lifestyle. We are farmers. You don't have to be, and not just farmers. I mean, we choose Alexandria because this is the lifestyle we want. We love the land. There's an emotional attachment to this land, to this prime farmland, beautiful parks, wildlife. I don't know. It would really, really devastate the village. It would. And I don't know. I can't speak to the schools. I don't know. But, you know, as Northridge, we're in the Northridge School District. So, you know, I don't know how it would affect, but I don't know if we would move or not. But we're already considering the idea. And I thought I'd just die here.
Right. Sean, we have one more minute. Can you just tell folks what you want, ask what you want to hear from the listeners, and give us an idea of what you're going to do?
Well, we just want people to understand that, you know, something like this is, as a development, it may be a part of what's necessary for the Intel development to be put together. But they should also understand how big of a disruption to the lifestyle it is for the communities around Intel. You know, it may be a big project that promises a lot of economic development, but it's the people out here, as Tracey said, we live out here because we sought the lifestyle. We sought this area. We lived in Columbus for many years, and we sought this out as we were starting a family and looking for an option for us to grow our farm and pursue our dream of having our own business. And so to think that the increased traffic, the potential for air pollution, the water pollution, all of that stuff combined, it's just such a disruption to the lifestyle that we saw. And it just doesn't seem to fit with the community that it's coming into. And we'd like to see other options explored and to see the asphalt plants find better sites that are more suited for this.
All right. As Margaret Mead said, the esteemed cultural anthropologist, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, It's the only thing that ever has. So my advice to you is to stand up, organize, and fight back. Because industry will take everything they can get, and they will not take care of your water, air, and soil and your lifestyle. So it's up to you, and it's all up to all of us. Thanks for joining us, and we'll get updates on what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for having us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk here with you.
All right. While we're moving our radio tower, you can stream GrassRoot Ohio on Fridays at 5 p.m. at www.wgrn.org and on Sundays at 2 p.m. at www.wcrsfm.org. When we're up and running, WGRN's new ID will be 91.9 FM. And you can also find us on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Thanks for joining us.